This is the quintessential Don King MMA fight.
You like watching people get for free?
We have Trey Ogden making his UFC debut. He's taking on the Monkey King, Jordan Leavitt. And why do I say that, Matt? It's because these two guys go hard when it comes to the grappling. And this is one of those ones where, for Jordan Leavitt, just look at his fights so far in the UFC. Claudio Puelles notwithstanding, that fight, though, did involve a heavy amount of grappling. And for both of those guys, setting that fight up, what are they both good at? High crotch single legs. And what do they both do? That exact thing. And Claudio Puelles was able to get the win. We call him the knee bar king in these points. Look at what he did to Chris Grutzmacher. But for Jordan Leavitt, you consider it on Dana White's Contender Series. Gets a win over Luke Flores by submission. Comes into the UFC, picks up Matt Wyman. Everybody's smiling until they're not, when Jordan Leavitt slams him, and it was one of the most disgusting slam knockouts. Most of them are all disgusting, but that one was pretty darn bad. And then if you look at it, the last time out for Jordan Leavitt, he's taking on Matt Sales. Matt Sales talked about it before the fight with Leavitt. He got up around the 200-pound mark, and he was cutting down. He wasn't going to fight at featherweight. He's going to take it at lightweight. And while the fight started, Matt Sales poking, prodding. I'm a striker. I come out of Alliance. And then Jordan Leavitt, gets taken down, and Jordan Leavitt powers his way through it, and then he ends up in an inverted triangle, and he gets it. You don't see that at lightweight very often. I mean, I did just talk about it with Vanessa Demopoulos, but that's women's strawweight. You never see that at men's lightweight. Jordan Leavitt is a great grappler, but when it comes down to this fight, Matt, I talk about it in terms of these guys are great grapplers. Here's a stat on the page that you can tell your friends when you're watching this fight at Buffalo Wild Wings. 17 of the 24 wins between these guys are by submission. And for Trey Ogden, while he is a better striker than Jordan Leavitt, I will say that, he is also a very, very tricky grappler. I think this is going to be one of the more fun fights on the card.
This should be a scramble fest if it lives up to its hopes, because Jordan Leavitt, like you had said, he is a very good wrestler, and he's an odd kind of wrestler. He will get into the clinch, go for sort of high body trips, then work his way down to the legs, and then try to chain wrestle from that point on. But against someone like Trey Ogden, who has absurdly clean finishing technique on his defensive submissions, that's going to be a really tough game plan to go in there with, because Leavitt is someone who will just go for a lot of takedowns. He's a really good athlete for this division, and I do feel like sometimes he almost gets a little bit caught up with his own athleticism. He's like a Precious Achua from the first half of this season, where it's like, okay, I'm really strong, I'm pretty fast, I have some of these tools. He just sort of explodes a little bit too much on some of his takedowns, and I do think that's going to offer at least a window for Trey Ogden to be able to get on with one of those guillotines, or at least promote a scramble once this fight does hit the mat. And if we do start getting a scramble off a Leavitt takedown, that's when this fight should get really fun, because I agree 100%. I do think Ogden is the better striker in this matchup. I don't think I'm ready to say he could go out there and really outstrike guys, let's say the top 25, for instance, for 15 minutes. I think he can use his striking to work it into clinch to then get it down to the mat. But against Leavitt, the worst case scenario of this fight is neither guy can take each other to the mat. I would definitely favor Ogden if that's the type of fight we get, but I'm really curious to see this one situation. Can Ogden get back up to his feet and not just try to work his jiu-jitsu off his back? Because how many times do we see this? A guy threatens with a guillotine, might come close for a second, and that's sort of the only burst they have for the round. That might look really good for those 30 seconds, but if the other 2 minutes, 3 minutes of the round are just spent with Jordan Leavitt in that top position on top of Trey Ogden, it could start to lead towards Leavitt winning rounds that way.
And Trey Ogden, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in his own right. He's one of the coaches at Glory MMA and Fitness Overland Park as well. And when you look at it, the way that Trey Ogden does strike, I said it's better than Jordan Leavitt, but there's a caveat there. It's not like championship level striking. It's not like Charles Oliveira. I'm a good grappler. I'm a good striker. For Trey Ogden, it is a lot of throws a jab, reset, throws a right hand, reset, throw a kick, reset. It's a lot of single shots, and when he's trying to close distance, he kind of comes right in, leaves his head there, and you could hit him. But for Jordan Leavitt, I've talked about it, when it comes to his striking technique, he usually fight with an arm up, and then he just kind of clubs his hands around. Kind of almost strikes like Alexei Oleinik a little bit, like he's going to come in here a little wonky.
That's not a great thing to say about a 26-year-old.
Hey, I will say, Khamzat Chimaev threw some of those clubs, and they worked against
They look like they hurt, though.
Exactly. You never know what kind of club's coming at you. But when it comes to this matchup, I do favor Ogden in the striking a bit. With Jordan Leavitt, though, that athleticism with his takedown attempts, you love to see it. He's coming out of Syndicate. He has a Syndicate teammate on this card as well that we'll talk about a little bit later on, and Brandon Jenkins. But, Matt, when we do look at this one, I mean, for Trey Ogden, he gets the win on Dana White's Looking for a Fight. It's Fury FC 53 main event for their lightweight strap. He's taking on JJ Okanovich. And in that fight, I mean, listen, Trey Ogden, rest in peace Nipsey Hussle. He walks out to a classic. and Grinding All My Life. I don't like that song. That's going to lose everybody out there right now. But I just personally don't like that song. It's overplayed. But as I had in my notes, a lot of single shots, good double leg. And once it got down to the mat, like, they sold you, if you just watch the fight and then you watch what happens on Looking for a Fight, they sell you wolf tickets on that fight. It's like J.J. Okanovich, giant prospect. He was in that fight. That armbar was deep. It was deep for all of 2 or 3 seconds. And the rest of the first round was controlled by Ogden. And then the second round, he had him broken and he took right over. So a big win for Trey Ogden. He had about a year and a few months off between his second to last fight and that fight against Okanovich. But that's it. A lot of layoffs throughout the career of Trey Ogden. You look at the level of competition that he's faced in the past. Some of those losses, 2 first-round guillotine losses to Thomas Gifford. Didn't have a good run in the UFC. Friend of the show. But Matt, when we do look at this fight, again, you talk about a clash of styles. Leavitt, he comes in off Season 4 Dana White's Contender Series. He's had a pretty interesting run so far. And he also has a YouTube channel like us, but his is for book recommendations. So if you want to learn about good books, Jordan Leavitt actually has a really good YouTube channel. I'm pushing you that direction. When it comes down to this fight, Trey Ogden opened a plus 135 underdog. He is a minus 135 favorite right now. Jordan Leavitt opened minus 155. He's around a plus 110. If we have a look at the Tapology votes, surprised us they are to you. I'm going to say the more known commodity is probably favored by the fans. I'm going to say 65% Jordan Leavitt over under.
I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. It's way over. 439 total votes, 82% Leavitt, 22% by decision, 72% by submission, 18% with Ogden, 67% by decision. So Matt, the odds have changed. Trey Ogden's the favorite. The fans have Jordan Leavitt, overwhelming majority. What say you?
So there's 2 different questions I'm going to answer right now. I'm going to answer who I think is going to win this fight. I think Jordan Leavitt is going to win this fight. I think him getting on top is really going to be the key. If he doesn't fall into a submission, I do think he's the more reliant guy who can go out there and win rounds. This is what I will say, though. I think he is a one-trick pony. And not even just a one-trick pony. He's a one-trick pony in a one-horse town. Shout out Blackberry Smoke of all bands. I really do think that Leavitt is going to find a lot of trouble once he starts fighting other guys who are well-rounded near that top 15. Because this way you have to remember, at 155 pounds, if you want to even think about being ranked, like, Mark Madsen's on a pretty good win streak right now. Most people think he doesn't even deserve to fight a top 15 guy, even if they think he's going to be a plus 500 underdog. You need to be so exceptionally good at this weight class to really break through and prove that, okay, I'm one of these prospects who deserves to be here. Like, Grant Dawson's at this weight class, and he is very far outside the top 15, but a very promising young talent. I would favor Grant Dawson quite heavily if he ever did fight Jordan Leavitt, so it would be nice to see Leavitt add a new wrinkle to his game. If he comes out here this weekend and starts really using the jab a lot better, maybe showing some improvements in his striking, maybe I will reevaluate him in the future, but for now I think he'll be able to get it done against Trey Ogden.
Originally supposed to be Jordan Leavitt versus former catcher and DH Victor Martinez. Not that Victor Martinez, but MMA's version. Trey Ogden stepping in on somewhat a short notice to take that fight. The Ogden fight that I went back and watched and I did not necessarily love, even though he gets a finish, is over 15-18 Cody Carrillo. And in that fight, Trey Ogden's striking defense wasn't very good. Carrillo closed the distance. He smashed away. He was really offensive with it. And really, you look at it, I mean, he gets a double leg. He ends up in his position. He ends up getting the submission. But for me, I'm going to go with youth on our side here in Jordan Leavitt. But this is one where I think either guy is live, and I think if you like Trey Ogden by submission, pretty good opportunity there, as he is now the favorite in this fight. So both of us now going with the underdog, Jordan Leavitt. I can't wait for fight week on this one. Can't wait to see these guys square off. Obviously, you have the height and slight reach advantage for Trey Ogden, so we'll see how that one plays out on Friday. Question mark kicks on Saturday, and a big time card coming up that you're not going to want to miss. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.